Please extinguish all cigarettes and ensure that your seat backs and trays are in the upright and locked position.
I want to be a flight attendant. I can save you all. Look to me for your instructions when the plane begins to fall. Once I wanted to be a nun till I found out what it takes from you. Now I've settled on flight attendant, and I know my heart is true. I'll never want to touch down, never want to see the ground. I'll never get lonely, because I'll always fly away. I want to point out X's in a calm, assuring way. Being a nun is such a selfish thing when you think of the comfort you can bring each day as a flight attendant. You'll all be like children to me, and my affection will be real for the duration of the flight. Anyway, here's your blanket, here's your meal. And when the flight is over, I bid you fond adieu. Then 300 other people get on, and my affection starts anew. I'll fly out every day knowing death could take this flight. I'll be so strong and ready, pushing open the emergency doors and pushing out down the inflatable slide into the water, each of you holding onto your seat cushion as your personal flotation device. I'll be the last to leave the plane. When even the pilot's safe, I'll push off and swim away as the plane bursts into flames. And my knotted scarf will stay in place, and the waves will lap my strong face, and then we'll have saved you all. Oh, I want to be a flight attendant. I want to be the one to pull your mask down in case of fire. I want to fly forever, and my arms will never tire.
The second lecture, The Managed Heart, Commercialization of Human Feeling, is a study also done by Arlie Hochschild. She's just, she has this way of looking at women and work that's pretty amazing, so I wanted to share two of her studies. The second study specifically looks at work, and because women, when they did enter the workforce in mass flux, they tended to work in service-based industry. So what she found is that the sort of feminization of work tended to be emotional type work, where women were paid not only to carry out a service, but to carry it out in a certain way, sort of a performance of caretaking. And more or less, that was part of the wage. So first of all, emotions are feelings that are cultural meanings given to sensations. So we feel a certain way, and that's supposed to mean something, right? So emotions are sort of that attachment to, well, if I'm feeling a certain way, what does that mean? And in the case of women in work, these sort of emotions tend to be sort of the caretaker, the supporter, someone who is very enthusiastic and wants to help people out. So sort of emotion is what she is specifically looking at. And so she decided to do a study on airline stewardesses that highlights the ways in which those who practice this occupations sell emotions, or what we call emotional labor, and are guided by feeling rules. So that it's not just about passing out the peanuts, but to be a certain way, that you're guided by a certain feeling that you should convey in your work. Essentially, then emotions can be something that can be bought and sold, which is very interesting to look at work in that way. And those of us who have worked in the service industry know what this is about. I mean, if you've ever worked at McDonald's or Blockbuster or a clothing retail store, that it's not just about giving someone a product, but you have to be a certain person. You have to be happy. You have to be bright. You have to be like this person is like your best friend. So you are sort of in a way selling your emotions and guided by certain rules of feeling. So many people offer their emotions as part of the job and see it as a positive skill to have. But then this study, what it allows us to do is to appreciate and understand the cost of doing emotional work. So yeah, you might be a happy person, but there's a certain cost that goes along with that when it becomes commodified, when it becomes something that is bought and sold. So emotional work, again, is something when work is more than just doing an activity, but it has to be done in a certain way. It's a performance. Your smile is in exchange for your income. Emotional labor, on the other hand, is literal emotional work. You must either induce or suppress a feeling in order to carry out a certain activity. You have to be in a proper state of mind to other people. And this sort of labor calls for a coordination of mind and feeling, and it's sometimes at the expense of who we are as a person, that we actually are forced to be someone that we don't necessarily want to be. So this is where managed emotions come in. So managed emotions are, first of all, they're artificial emotions. They're conveyed as real and authentic, but they're part of what your job is about. Again, it may not be authentic at all, but you have to do it, you have to carry yourself in a way that people believe is authentic. So yeah, you could smile at your customer, but you can smile in a way that's genuine and in a way that's very fake. And the way that, of course, your boss, wants you to convey it is in the authentic way. And this is all calculated as part of the service, so fast but with a smile. And that studies show that this is a very profitable thing to do. So it's part of the environment. You have music, you have soothing colors, drinks and smiles, all meant to comfort and ease the passenger. Well, if you fly an airline that is absent of all these things, and you fly an airline that has all of these things, and the cost or the price is exactly the same, which airline are you going to fly? Well, they found that most passengers respond positively to these things and will choose the airline that has sort of emotional labor that comes with the service. It's also part of the training they found. So these stewardesses undergo very extensive training. They study emotions in order to make customers respond in a certain way. So if the customer is very satisfied, very happy, they will return and fly that airline again. So training became a very important part of this. You're supposed to smile a certain way, make eye contact. If you've ever flown, like when you leave the plane, they're always saying, I hope you had a great trip, and they make a point to interact with each customer. So again, it's just part of the training that they undergo. So then, what is the cost of emotional labor? Well, one of the things that they found is a cost is that there tends to be an alienation from our emotions or feelings because they're no longer our own, but they're under the control of someone else to be bought and sold. Again, if you have to repress what you're really thinking, what you're really feeling, there's an alienation there because you can't be true to who you are and true to what you really want to express. There's estrangement. There's this sort of choice to feel. What are real emotions? And they actually found that those who worked in this industry had sort of an emotional high after working. They continue to be very happy and chipper even after their work was done because there's so much of a forced way of being in this kind of work environment. And you sort of lose control over what we actually feel in order to reproduce the certain environment that is required of you. And then the last point, as far as cost, is that your emotions are exploited for profit without recompense. So your wage is going to be the same, at this airline versus the other airline. So all that emotional work gets slated as profit for the company, not necessarily trickle down to you. So this is another form of cost in terms of their analysis. Okay, so the last thing I want you to do is to do the lecture-based assignment number 9. And I want you to describe a job that involves emotional work. If you've had a job like an airline stewardess or worked in McDonald's or worked in some sort of service-based industry, you can go ahead and write from personal experience if you want. And then I want you to go through the lecture and then describe that job in terms of emotional work, emotional labor, and managed emotions. And then the last part of the assignment is to address this question: what do you believe is the cost of emotional labor?